Now, ongoing power cuts are affecting every sector of society, and the burial industry hasn't been spared. Funerals in South Africa cost between 12 to 60,000 rand on average, while more elaborate send-offs can cost as much as 150,000 rand. Most funeral parlours have invested in backup solutions to cope, but it has also resulted in significant increase to operational costs. Now, increased inflation isn't making things any easier. Let's find out how the industry is coping with load shedding. Lawrence Konyana, National Funeral Directors Association President, joins me now. Lawrence, I mean, we now hear of stage 8 load shedding looming. How devastating has this been to the industry as a whole?
Well, the cost has been quite significant. Power cuts, sometimes not even load shedding. We have power cuts due to either theft of cable or any other thing. So it is quite substantial. We did some calculation as an industry, and we discovered that we're spending around just under 160 million rand annually for diesel and petrol.
That is a huge amount. Let's talk about, funeral homes in especially the smaller areas, smaller towns, how badly they are affected. We have some places where there's weeks on end of no power. And I can just imagine having a funeral parlor in a place like that where you don't have any power for weeks on end, how badly that can affect your business. Does this mean job losses for the industry and even worse, closure of business?
Well, we know there are some funeral businesses that have already closed shop because of these significant rises in costs due to load shedding and other things. It is quite impacting because you will have to run a generator almost 24/7. Remember, the families have entrusted you with their loved ones, and it's up to you to make sure that the integrity of the body is kept. So it's very difficult because you've got to make sure that everything is right. There's also health issues. So the costs are really going up. You've got to do everything that you can to make sure that there is power, the fridges are running, unless if we start looking at other alternatives like embalming and other sources of power. If solar doesn't seem to be reliable for the industry, so we mostly rely on generators.
And tell me, we've heard of stories where, criminals are now also targeting funeral parlors and funeral directors. Have you heard of any of these stories, and how many of these do you hear of where you get vandalism to certain funeral homes so that criminals can, take advantage of the situation after load shedding when you have certain transformers being vandalized? Have you heard some of those stories, and how bad is that?
Well, it is quite bad. I've experienced it myself as well. As soon as the generator goes off at 2 a.m. goes on, it makes people alert that you've got a generator, and most likely criminals take advantage of that. And we've had break-ins where people want to either steal the generator or parts thereof. Also, the theft of fuel, diesel that is stored for the generator. And there's generally a lot of crime during the load shedding times.
Would you say that hijackings are also increasing?
Unfortunately, yeah, it seems that is the case, yes.
It is quite devastating, I must say. And now we also hear that the South African Funeral Practitioners Association, SAFPA, they're urging people to, unfortunately, having to bury their loved ones in 4 days if possible. But we all know that, funerals take some time to organize. So this is clearly also, playing a direct role on the day-to-day business of all funeral parlors that are affected by this.
It is indeed. And remember, the families need to prepare. And, sometimes in our cultures, you need your uncles and aunts who may be coming from far. And so organizing a funeral within 3 days, sometimes it is difficult, and there's still monies that need to be collected either from friends, relatives, insurance companies, and this may take a bit of time. So it is difficult. It is difficult indeed.